In today's video, we're going to talk about the top 5 things to avoid when starting your new business. What's up, fam? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, CMH, founder of StartupU. StartupU is an interactive learning space for online business owners. Make sure you check out StartupU at getstartupu.com. That's getstartupu.com. Before we get started today, make sure you guys like this video, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, because YouTube has changed. Guys, if you subscribe, I promise if you don't hit the bell, you probably won't see another video from me ever again. And we don't want that. We want you here, we want you learning, we want you growing. Make sure you hit that bell for notifications so you can do more of just that. Don't forget to also drop me a comment below. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the top 5 things to avoid. And this is not just for 2021, guys. This is for forever, right? And this extends back 20 years, and it'll probably extend 20 years into the future. These are things that you can use in any market, and honestly with any product or new offering that you're conjuring up as well. So things to remember, things to always refer back to when you're considering something new, some new endeavor, some new prospect, some new product, some new service. So always remember these. Number 1, fad markets, right? It's nothing like a fad market. Getting into something where it's this explosion for a couple years and then it just kind of dwindles away, right? Think Beanie Babies, for example, right? Everybody, the whole rave was Beanie Babies. And I know that they still have a lot of value now if they haven't been tampered with and what have you, but it's mainly because they held a lot of sentimental value and there's some rarity with some of them and things of that nature. But for a point in time, when I was a young lad, when I was in grade school, Beanie Babies were all the rave. And now you just don't really hear much about them. So think things like that. Fidget spinners would be another good example. Things that just exploded onto the scene and then they just kind of died away. The problem is that if you're there and you're positioned to ride that wave and you got lucky, right? Maybe you make a good amount of money. But at the end of the day, once you built the infrastructure and you've got a company, you've got employees, and you make all the investment you need to really get up and running, more than likely that wave has already passed. And now you've got to figure out, okay, what do we do now? In some cases, people are able to pivot and move on to something else. In some cases, they're not. It's a huge gamble. It's a huge risk. And if you are starting out, it's probably not worth it. It's probably not worth pursuing. So let other people play the fad game. If they hit, sometimes great. It's like day trading. Like you might win, you might not. You also have the chance to lose it all. I'd rather see you not do that and focus on markets that are not fad markets. I'm going to teach you how to make sure you avoid a fad market in the very next video. So make sure, again, you subscribe, hit the bell for notifications because we are going to talk about that. Okay, number 2, dying markets, right? So let's talk about another one. A dying market, right? So I'll tell you a story, and this will give you a good example of a dying market. I was starting my first business, and we were thinking about ways that we could really fully maximize what little budget we had for marketing. And there was a gentleman that I felt bad for him, and so I ended up doing it anyways and using what little funds that I had, for marketing on this the first year. Didn't do it the second year, but he was selling these print ad spots where they went around and they hung them up on, it was in a college town, and they hung it up, and it would show all the local businesses that supported whatever. It was a football calendar. That's what it was. So it showed the football calendar for University of Georgia, and then around it, it had all the sponsors. And odds are, I actually saw this on several people's refrigerators. They cut out the ad spots around it so they could just put the schedule up, right? Kind of waste of time and money, right? So when I analyzed, once we started running, we got a little bit acclimated with running digital marketing. We spent like $300 or $400. This was the early days of Facebook marketing. We spent like $300 or $400 and made like $20,000 in return, right? Versus this was a multi-$1,000 investment in this print ad, and a lot of them end up in the trash or they cut it out or what have you. So that was an example of a dying market, right? Print advertisement in whatever case. I know in some cases it's still relevant, but not nearly what it once was, right? Digital marketing has become the wave of the now and of the future. And so in relation to digital marketing, that is very much a dying market. So if you're trying to launch something that's print ad or something that's just an antiquated modality, you're probably going to find that you're on the tail end of a dying market. So that's one example I feel like would be relevant for you, but be mindful of gauging the market. Where are things trending? Where are things going? Am I going to make a massive investment in a market that has really seen its better days, right? Make sure you don't find yourself on the tail end of one of those. Okay, next is unproven markets, right? So this is a huge mistake that I see people make where they think, oh, right, there's no competition for what I'm doing. Well, you might think that's a great thing. I can tell you it's not. The problem is that you really want to see, and it's funny because I actually have my business coach and mentor will often tell me he's been on the front end of some pretty cutting edge ideas or some new ways of doing things, which that's our job as entrepreneurs. And he said, I just can't wait for somebody else to emerge in the market to really validate the idea, to validate the concept. The problem is that even if you do have this glamorous brand new idea, the problem is going to be traction, right? Because people are used to a certain degree of polarity, right? The market, it's outside of your neophiliacs, which are people that are early adopters, it's really hard for something to go mainstream unless some company really has a lot of money and ability to put a lot of energy behind introducing something new to the market, right? So it's not just having a new idea. People may think it sounds great, but adoption is an entirely different conversation. So it may be difficult, even if you are the very first person to think of this grandiose idea that you have for a business, it might be very hard for you to get penetration for a variety of different reasons. It also may be hard for you to secure funding if your business requires funding. Just because a lot of investors, they want to see track record. They want to see someone else, right? They want to see the Uber of, right, that industry. They want to see an opportunity, something that they can use as kind of a measuring stick. And when you are the measuring stick, there's high risk. In fact, in many cases, the second person to market is actually the one that's most successful, not the first person to market. So you may find that you're too soon. I've been on the front end of this one too, guys. I've been on the end of involved with some really cutting edge technology, some really awesome stuff. And I was like, this is a slam dunk. We're going to crush this. Kind of dropped like a rock, right? And I felt like it was going to take off. And the reason being was that it just was really, really new. And it really kind of pushed society in a way that I don't think we were ready for it just yet. So make sure that the market is ready. It's not an unproven market. Competition is not a bad thing. You just have to figure out where you fit in the competition and how you serve in a unique way to an underserved segment of that market. Next one is a low margin business, right? So if you enter into a company specifically as a startup and you've got to make $100,000 for you to personally pay yourself $1,000, that's going to be a problem, right? That's going to be a significant issue. Again, I'm speaking from experience here, as you guys can see. I've had one of my previous businesses was a low margin business, and despite the fact that I had gone from $0 to $500,000 in a very short period of time, and then on to 1.2 within the next 8 months. So in totality, did it within 36 months total from launch to 7 figures. Was still barely able to pay myself. Growth requires cash. In a low margin business, sacrifices have to be made. You're looking at the sacrifice. I had to make the sacrifices because it's just a low margin business. The business I'm in now, I can make a fraction of the revenue and still pay myself way more than I was able to pay myself in that business. So low margin, you just have to understand it is what it is. If it's something you're convicted about, if you want to run a restaurant, you just know that that's what it entails. Great. Just understand that that's what you're getting into and know that it's going to be a little bit of a rougher challenge. You're going to want to make sure that you do have other ways to subsidize your income outside of the business, because it may take a very long time for you to be able to pay yourself. So make sure you understand what the margins are and what the expectation should be in that specific market if you're going to pursue it anyways. Okay, next I've got low scalability businesses, right? So again, I reference restaurants. That's a really hard business to scale. It's really hard to replicate and duplicate what you do, and moreover, what you've been able to accomplish at one location. Technology is easy to scale. That's why people love technology concepts. That's why investors flock to them, because it's easy to say, hey, I've got this platform that anybody in the world could use it all at the same time, and it doesn't require more manpower to do that, right? It just requires online bandwidth and, a bigger server, right? So those are things that not only do investors look for, but for you, it's going to be great that you can really scale up without all the incurring the overhead and sunk costs and investment and manpower and all the things required to run a company, unless you're just truly convicted by what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I would avoid a low scalability business. And then the last tip I've got for you is a business that requires a large investment to get started. Now, I left this as last. This is kind of an aside. This is kind of a bonus one outside of our top ones that we've discussed. The reason I wanted to include it though is because I see a lot of really innovative concepts, really innovative solutions that people bring to the table. And I myself am involved with several organizations where we help people practice their pitch for investors. And one of the bigger challenges is that a lot of them, their idea is great. It just is going to require so much to get off the ground, right? There's not like a basic iteration of it they can get off the ground and do it on their own. And so they're kind of at the behest or kind of at the mercy of someone buying into their idea. In this day and age, it's becoming harder and harder unless you're on the coasts, right? In the United States, unless you're on the coasts, to get idea stage funding. Meaning, I have an idea, and this investor is going to write me a check just because they think it's a great idea. It's becoming harder and harder and harder to secure funding for that season, for that stage of business. A lot of people really want to see that a business is more established, that it actually has made significant windfall, has customers, has made money, has a track record, stuff like that. So if you have a business that requires a large investment to get started, I think you're going to find you're always going to be fighting an uphill battle. Doesn't mean it's impossible, just means it's going to be fighting more of an uphill battle than maybe than what you were expecting to pursue. All right, guys, I hope you like this video. I hope it's extremely helpful. Make sure, again, to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications for more videos like this. We're going to do this entire series to help you get your business off the ground. Also, don't forget to go to learnwithcmh.com. That's learnwithcmh.com. At the end of this series, we're actually going to launch a masterclass that's going to help you really put all this together and then tell you exactly what the next step should be to make sure you get your business off the ground and make sure that this is the year that happens. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you in the next one.